This Q&A segment, it breathes fresh life and possibility into the program, and you never know what you're going to get.
Hey. Welcome to the Valor Coffee Podcast. I'm Ethan. I sat down with Ross today and we chopped up seasonal menus, latte art, what you should and should not put on your menu at a coffee shop. Dove into a couple questions. It was a sweet time. Ross is awesome. It was awesome. Speaking of awesome, we tried some coffee from Bellwood in Atlanta and it blew us away. We're going to give that a review at the end of the program, so stay tuned for that. And then also, this podcast is in partnership with Clive Coffee. So if you use code VALOR5 after clicking on the link below on Luca and Eureka products on their website, that's 5% off for you, which with coffee gear goes a long way. So use code VALOR5 after you're clicking on that link, and that helps support this program and making this magic happen every week. Well, as always, hope you enjoy the show. See you in there. Hey.
Dap me up, fam.
Dap me up, fam. So glad to have you on my podcast.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I wanted to actually sit down and ask you a couple questions.
Okay. Now, which one to use Valor and which one to use coffee?
Ethan Valor, nice to meet me. Hey, we got some awesome coffee.
It's true. From Bellwood. This Kenya, man. We have the same one.
Busted.
The same one.
I think we had it first. I'm kidding. I don't know.
Okay. What for people who don't know out there, especially when it comes to regional roasters. So, in our case, that would be roasters in Georgia, roasters just in the Southeast in general, maybe just East Coast. We're getting our coffees, our green coffees from the same importers.
Right.
And we're always, probably all of us, meaning roasters, are trying to find new importers so that this doesn't happen. But I remember the first time that we had one of our favorite coffees very early on, Guatemala Islama.
Tenango.
It was a way.
It was a way.
And it was washed. And it was like basically our flagship coffee. And then I was like on Methodical's website and I was like, wait, they have that coffee too. And then I thought about it and I was like, oh, well, they just work with the same importer that we do. This was back in 2018.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes sense that these importers that have their whole coffee list are sending probably similar samples, right?
Oh,
come on, Cappy. Sending the same probably, 10 coffees out to a specialty coffee roaster to taste. Their palates are probably decently calibrated.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, this one's the best Kenyan. I'll take this one, please.
Yeah. And from my perspective on a wholesale side, it's the equivalent of you're going to give yourself a tummy ache with that cappuccino.
I'm going to do a little dance after drinking this cappuccino. It's so gosh darn delicious.
Do a little dance, a little jig. It's the equivalent of us selling our flagship blend Free Throw to more than 2 cafes in the Southeast. And then that, like, one of those cafes looking at the other cafe and being like, we're using the same coffee. And it's like, yeah, like I have to sell Free Throw to more than one cafe to be able to exist as a business. So it's the same thing for an importer. It makes total sense.
Yeah. And I mean, like high grade specialty coffee is not a large slice of coffee growth or like coffee being grown worldwide. It's mostly C grade stuff.
Right.
So it kind of makes sense that, we would end up with this. And then maybe a place like Onyx or someone that's a little bigger could just pick up these specialty lots and get 100% of the coffee from a small farm.
Yeah.
Which is sick.
Yeah.
Pay that bill.
It's a cool experience to source the same green coffee as another roaster that you respect and taste that next to yours. Did you taste this coffee next to our Kenya?
No, sir.
We cupped it the other day.
Okay.
And I was pretty excited to taste the difference because this Kenya is one of my favorite coffees that we've had in recent memory. And I think Bellwood roasts on a drum roaster, if I'm not mistaken. And we roast on an air roaster, a Loring. So that has a factor too. I assume that we're going for some of the same things. We're just trying to do this coffee justice, like what it deserves to be roasted as. But I liked theirs better. I like Bellwood's better. I'll say it. I'm not afraid
You're
to
not
admit
allowed
that.
to say that.
Oh, right, because we're supposed to be the best. Oh, I forgot. No, it was great. It's great to do that because you just learn, you know?
Yeah.
And I know they're on a drum roaster, and in our experience, drum roasters tend to pull out more body and sweetness, whereas our air roaster tends to pull out more clarity and acidity. And I think that was definitely expressed in the 2 samples that we cupped the other day. Theirs was also aged a little bit more than ours. Ours was roasted less than 24 hours ago. This was aged pretty ideally.
We're like 2 weeks. Yeah.
So I will
fair.
say that. But nonetheless, these coffees we've got brewed up here are delicious. So how did you brew this espresso?
Hold on 1 second.
Because we've got the Keys Vendor Weston Spirit triplet in the mix. I don't know if you can see probably in this main shot here.
Cut to main shot.
Yeah. Looking good.
Yeah, bro. I mean, I know we've been a little more hyped on putting coffee through an espresso grinder and dialing in that way. But I just ground it up on the EK as fine as I could go.
Yep.
I did start coarse syrup, and I was like, I'm going to just have to zero this puppy out.
And that's with the EK calibrated to be as fine as it can be on 0.
Yeah, them's babies be chirping almost.
Dems be chirping.
19.5 in. That the reason it's here is because the volumetrics are a little out of tune right now. It's supposed to be 45. It was giving me 52.
Hey.
I was like, that works perfectly
Yes, please.
in this situation.
Yeah.
19.5 in, 52 out in like 28 seconds. Pretty buttery, man.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Sweet coffee.
And then this cappuccino, you don't usually have a super high acidity coffee. That's probably expensive. Well, I know it's expensive because we bought the same one in a cappuccino, but it's delicious.
Oh, it's good. Hey, can I say something?
The next 30, 45, it'll be a great time to say anything. Yeah.
Happy Valentine's Day, bro.
Oh my gosh.
You getting into any trouble tonight?
Oh man. No. We are gonna go on a date to the Chastain.
What?
Michelin awarded.
What?
In Buckhead, which is a city north of Atlanta for people that aren't from Georgia. And I'm excited for that because I haven't been to dinner service there.
That's awesome.
So pumped for that. What about you?
We're going to a Michelin recognized restaurant as well.
Are you?
Talat Market, the Thai place.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, in Summerhill. Super excited.
Michelin recognized.
I couldn't remember if it got a star or if it got like the Bib Gourmand thing.
Isn't that cheap food?
I don't know. I think this restaurant is not cheap, but
well, compare for you maybe. Oh,
it's
boy.
cheap to somebody. That's probably very
everything's
true.
cheap to someone.
That is true. Hey,
yeah,
dude, I know we have some questions to get to.
Yeah.
Do we want to address the elephant in the room?
The elephant that's not in the room.
He is in the room.
He actually isn't, laying on the couch over there. Big T, aka Riley, is running a fever this morning, and he's not feeling well. And he wanted to be able to bring either his best or nothing at all. And he's choosing nothing at all by laying on the couch.
I'd say he did something. He helped set up. We don't know how to do that just quite yet. So thank you, Riley, for getting us all set up. Sorry, you're going to have to listen to what is about to happen because it's going to get weird.
Yeah, things are going to get really odd.
Dude, question time?
Yes.
I wish I had a jingle for the Q&A segment.
Hey, let's dream about what could and should be.
Q&A. That's all I got.
We mentioned last episode that one of our good friends and wholesale partners, Nathan Hanna, Numa Coffee,
Gibbo,
let's go, sent some really good questions, and I'd like to hit another one of those. This Q&A segment, it breathes fresh life and possibility into the program, and you never know what you're gonna get. So I really enjoy doing it. He asked, from your time reading Unreasonable Hospitality, what do you think impacted each of you most? What are some obvious or not so obvious ways those ideas have impacted the staff and guests at Valor? Why don't you give a brief background of what Unreasonable Hospitality is for those who don't know?
Right. Well, I mean, we've basically like quadrupled in listeners since we went through the book.
Not saying much, but yeah, it's true.
Actually, I don't even know if that's true. I just picked a thing. But yeah, we read this book by Will Guidara, who worked in the Danny Meyer Union Square Hospitality Group family of businesses. And Will took over 11 Madison Park and turned it into, did it end up getting won? Like the best restaurant in the world?
I think so, yeah.
By somebody, something, some very important thing.
Yes.
And he chronicles his journey of what made them the best. And my biggest takeaway was the value that he put on having conflicting goals, right? Because that's something that we have really pushed and tried to do. And sometimes you obviously hit a lot of walls doing that. And so you can get, you could harbor disappointment or frustration. And so this concept of, being a restaurant that provides the best food in the world, but also the most like empathetic and excellent service, like front of house, those come in a lot of conflict, you know, but that conflict is what produces innovation, collaboration, communication.
And it makes you think.
It makes you think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're not just going for like one thing, and you can't have that like very, very narrow focus, but you have to kind of consider how every decision has a different ripple effect. So doing that with the roastery and the cafes, thinking about the way that we hire and who we bring on, we just really have this value for, I feel like we've talked about this on the program before. We're like kind of known for being the nice coffee place.
Yeah.
I think that might be starting to shift a little bit because the idea of awesome service, I think, is really starting to elevate.
Yeah.
Which is such a win. But we've always wanted to match that with like the best coffee made at a really fast, consistent, and sustainable rate through training our team. Yeah. And that's just kind of hard. It's hard to really care about making coffee, but then also really prioritize connecting with guests and making it, I think he talks about making it cool to care again,
Yes.
So praising the moments where the team does something that highlights a guest or a point of connection, or going above and beyond, making that known that like, hey, that's the stuff that we like. That's the stuff we want to promote, is that it's cool to care.
Absolutely.
Anything coming to mind for you, bro?
Yeah, it's vis-a-vis conflicting principles. He talks about the difference between restaurant smart and, did he use the word business smart?
Street smart. I'm kidding. Yeah, I think he said business smart.
So sort of that. I see this theme so often in our own conversations and decision making, but also in talking with people that are starting coffee shops or other businesses, where there's restaurant smart and there's business smart, and those are not the same thing. So something that's restaurant smart, I'm trying to think of like one of the specific examples he gave, but restaurant smart comes from years of operating a restaurant, and you're like, I just know what makes this thing work.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what it's like to be boots on the ground, what keeps people motivated, what gets the job done well. And then business smart, and well, last thing on restaurant smart is that tends to be on a more granular
perfect
level of small micro level things, day to day, night to night, service to service things that you just do and implement to run the thing. And then business smart is these other things like, what's the best way to structure payroll?
Right.
What are the methods and practices we're going to implement to replicate and scale this thing? And I think about the conversation that we had with Will Schertz of Methodical Coffee,
Greenville, South Carolina,
on the program
a couple months
ago. And we talked about, we asked the question, do people ever say to you that they miss the old Methodical? And he was like, all the time. Yeah. And I ask that because a lot of people were saying that to us, that they missed the old Valor. And it kind of hurt my heart when people would say that, because I knew what it meant was that they saw something beautiful that they're no longer seeing in our business. And that's something to mourn. But like, that's a perfect illustration of restaurant smart or coffee shop smart versus business smart, because our vision was not just to stay with like the 3 owners and then like 2 or 3 employees or 3 or 4 employees behind the bar indefinitely, even though that was a very beautiful season. And we really like blazed the trail of what Valor is today during that time. But if we would have stayed with those systems and those processes and those people, not really the people, but the people were awesome. I just mean those people weren't going to stay there forever.
Yeah.
And so we had to zoom out and be like, okay, this is a beautiful thing. How do we sustain it? How do we make it to where we can go the distance with this? Because it's not impressive just to do a business for like 6 months. That's a really cool thing. Sure, you did a cool thing, but it was for 6 months. So employing more of those business smart tactics. What comes to mind for you? We don't have that many questions, so I'm just going to go off of that.
You can ask me a question. See?
I feel like you're a pretty restaurant smart guy. Naturally speaking, you've embraced more business smart mentality as you've grown in your role, and as our business has grown.
Sure.
I think that's really all 3 of us. Yeah. Because we started off just as baristas. You know, like people ask me all the time, like, what got you into coffee? Like, what's your background? And you know, like, why coffee? I'm like, well,
got a master's degree in coffee science, of course.
Well, we analyzed several markets and we decided that coffee was the best one. No, like it's the opposite of that. Like we started when we were 19 and we just loved making coffee and we loved serving people. Yeah. We just we were 19-year-old baristas. That's all we were. But we had enough guts and stupidity to be like, let's start our own thing. So going from that time to like, you know, think like year 1 of our first cafe, how like that would be like what's known as like the old Valor. You know, what would you say are some of the like main themes of the old Valor? And then what are some of the like business smart things that we've had to implement over the years that have made us sustain our business?
The first big thing that comes to mind, I was actually just talking to a little bit about this for a little bit yesterday, which is fun. I think a thing that made it awesome was that we kind of put the operations wholly on our shoulders. So that allowed the pit crew to just do their job, like just make coffee and connect with people. We made a simple job like extremely simple. And so you could just really ham it up and do whatever. And then I'd be behind you or you'd be behind, just making sure everything is operating. But as the business has grown, the amount of responsibility has grown. And then we've shared that responsibility with people and called everybody higher. And I think when you have more responsibility, you can just have less fun sometimes. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so that like simplicity of work can kind of go away, where kind of Will was mentioning, it's just like, yeah, we just got together and made coffee all day. And it's like, all right, who wants to do it tomorrow? Like that's awesome. But it's like, now we're trying to do, you know, who's going to make the kegs now? Who's going to make all of the syrups? Because there's too much for me to make. Who's going to train these people? We got busy, and then you have to train new people. So that was a big takeaway for me. And then honestly, bro, it was just slower. So
we just didn't have as many
we
customers.
didn't have as many customers. And that just kind of challenges the landscape of connection.
Go there.
And it kind of is another call higher to like, how are you going to have intimate connections in briefer spaces, because like, and that started from the cart, we kind of laid that foundation on our own accord of, we were doing this pop-up, people would come in one at a time and we just talk. We just get to know them
for like 15 minutes.
Cut up. Like we would just drink coffee. They would just drink their cup of coffee. It's like, you just got to like sit down and have a coffee with this person who's trying to like have a business.
Yeah.
And then for the first people that came into Valor, like Jonathan and Matt and Caitlin, they all worked with us at the cart and watched us do that exact same thing with them. So it was an invitation to join that, like, hey, yeah, we just make coffee for people when we talk. We just connect.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what we do. We make moments of delight.
Yeah.
And then when they come back in, we pick right back up. We remember them, and that's what we do. And then going to the cafe space and bringing more people on, it was just kind of a continuation of that. And I think as the years went on, specifically PC post-COVID, like the lockdown, kind of in that summer, it just started getting really busy.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, there's more coffee to roast. There's more syrups to make. There's more people to put on the schedule. There's more training to do. And it's like, we have to run this business now. It was very manageable, but I think, now it's like, how do we see that, what was, treasure it, and then try to bring those pieces back, and I'm honored that people love coming to Valor. It's awesome. We want a ton of people to come. I think, and that's where we're at, is we're trying to figure out how to make an awesome, sustainable experience at the level of volume that we're experiencing, right? And I was talking to David of Sidetrack kind of exactly about this, of like, we can't control how many people are in the space, but we can try our best to like connect with them, whether it's for 30 seconds or 30 minutes. That's what's coming to mind for me.
Yeah.
What's coming to mind for you, man?
Well, I had I catered an event yesterday with Blake. Blake's one of the dudes who works here at HQ.
Oh, everybody knows Blake.
Yeah. If you ever get coffee from us, he probably packaged it, maybe wrote the note to you on the packing slip. But he was talking about his favorite wing spot. It's like 5 minutes from his house. And how when he goes in there, it's not like this, super fancy, flashy place at all. And there's this dude who is either the managing partner or the owner or the GM or whatever. He's like the face he's there every day, And he was just sharing how when he goes in there, not only are the wings the exact same every single time, they're really excellent and consistent. But when you go in, like this dude daps you up and like will like give you a side hug, and it feels like you're in his kitchen, in his home, and he's gonna make you some wings. And like, oh yeah, by the way, he's gonna charge you some money, but it doesn't feel like that, And I always want Valor to feel that way, Like I always want our cafes, or even people who buy our coffee online, to feel like there are just normal, regular people making this. And when you come into our cafe, or when you buy our coffee online, it's like somebody stepping into our home and we're hosting them. And I think about how in the early days of us behind the bar all the time, like that came very naturally. We didn't have to try to contrive that sort of theme.
1 out of 4 customers would walk away without paying because we were just talking.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh.
Yeah. Exactly. And then, like you said, like we were just slower back then. And so I'm really grateful for that season, because it really like set forth some of the key ingredients of who we are today. Connection and placing dignity and value upon people, and just being like, not like acting the same way you do behind the bar that you do when you're not behind the bar, just acting like you.
Oh,
Some of those main things are still intact today.
Yep.
But like when it's a line out the door, man, it feels different.
Yeah.
We're not going to like deny that. And we can do the best we can do with that with that arrangement and with that level of volume, But anyways, I got a sort of a funny question, and then we'll hit our topic.
OMG.
So, I'm going to take this question and reframe it and also keep it anonymous so that I don't twist his words. Let's talk about latte art. Okay.
I thought you would never bring this up, bro.
Yeah. So let's say someone wants to get a job as a barista.
Got it.
Or they want to start their own coffee company. They want to start a cart or a coffee shop or whatever. Do they need to be able to pour latte art to do that?
To start a coffee cart?
Yeah. Or to get a job as a barista?
As in it's a prerequisite?
Yeah.
No, it's not a prerequisite. You can learn.
Yeah.
Right?
How hard is it to learn latte art?
Oh.
You do a good bit of training with our team. We hire a lot of people with zero coffee experience.
Yeah.
How difficult is it for someone to go from being able to steam like okay milk? Like on the first day of training, they can walk away with like some good microfoam,
And like getting something on there probably.
Yeah, getting some white design on there, who knows what it looks like. But going from that to being able to pour, like their deck would be a heart, a 3-stack tulip, not just that. Like I feel like that's really where people start.
Like how long would it take someone to go from nothing to that?
Yeah.
1 month.
1 month. Okay. And is that sort of just like what does that progression look like? Is that people working at it every day or just in our experience?
Yeah. Well, what's hard in our experience, it's difficult because you will probably steam the most amount of milk the earliest on when you're in a lab environment training.
Sure.
Because you certify for positions at Valor. And the last position to certify for is the position that does latte art. And you are not going to certify for that by the time your training's done. It's typically maybe months after you've been on the team, because we just want you to learn the operation and not pigeonhole yourself in this one area of the team. And especially with the volume, that's kind of like the production lead position that's doing a lot of delegating and communicating. So you really need to just know the lay of the land. So if someone just dedicated themselves to it on their own time and they had access to milk and an espresso machine, you could probably do it in a week. You give yourself a couple hours a day.
Yeah.
You probably can't do more than a couple hours a day because then you just like get kind of brain dead. You know?
You get tired of pulling espresso more than you get tired of steaming milk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd say no. I mean, that's something, if you're trying to get into coffee, of course you'd want to be able to do that for your guests. Like if you're doing a coffee cart or whatever. And there's so much material. It's so easy to learn. There's probably a lot of like weird material that's not super helpful. It's just like really showy stuff. But I mean, you just have to kind of retrain your brain, right? Because you just fill up a cup in the weirdest way possible.
Right.
That's what I've been trying to explain to people more in the training. It's like, this doesn't feel normal. So don't expect it to like come naturally, you know? And people vary on like entry level skill. Some people can just kind of start with a heart, you know, on their first pour. Like Tina, who we just hired, like her first pour, she's like, did a heart. I was like, okay,
awesome.
Great.
Yeah.
Let's just keep doing that.
Uh-huh.
And then some people like so far,
right.
So far away.
So in your experience training people on how to pour latte art, what are some of the main things people get wrong?
People don't understand. People, so frustrating.
People,
I'm
man.
kidding. I think it's really hard for people to understand that latte art happens once you drop your pitcher down. You're supposed to increase the flow of your milk, and then it's a dual rotation of flattening out the cup and increasing your milk. You know what I mean? It's like right there. But people go from, people will, first off, not tilt their cup because they really don't want to. Because basically what's hard is that you're always almost spilling the cup,
That's
right?
true.
That's kind of like the status you're in. Like the best latte art happens when you're almost or you actually are spilling something.
Mm-hmm.
So that rotation of like constantly keeping the liquid right at the lip of the cup the whole time is so uncomfortable for people that even if they get it tilted, when they actually start pouring, they'll immediately flatten out the cup.
Yep.
And then that distance between spout and the top of the like liquid surface is too great. And then you get tiny nothing latte art.
I was going to say, that's one of the main things I've seen in training people is that their designs are always tiny.
Yeah.
Because of a few reasons, or two that I can think of. One, latte art happens when the tip of the spout on your milk pitcher gets as close as possible to the surface of the drink in the cup.
Yeah.
That's when the white latte art shows up. That's one thing. So that they're not getting close enough. The second thing is they're not pouring fast enough because they're just starting out. It's totally understandable. They are scared to pour fast because they don't want to spill.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you don't pour with a little conviction on your pour, then this like little tiny Grinch size heart shows up. And that's the main thing I would say is like, even when we get past the form of it, once their form is looking good, the designs are too small. I've never seen someone pour too big of a latte art, like early on.
Right,
It's always too small.
The pull through is always a challenge because we're so uncomfortable with the cup being so full and then finishing like this. But what we don't understand just yet is how much surface area you have and how much time you have once the cup is flat. And then getting someone, naturally we pour like towards ourselves. So the designs are always very non-centered.
Yep.
And then obviously this is all under the guise that you already have good milk, which is its own little journey. Mm-hmm. But honestly, because we promote so much ghosting and like we have great machines, it's not that hard.
Totally. But point being, if you don't have good milk, it's very hard to pour.
Yeah, none of this is happening.
Almost impossible to pour good latte art.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun though, man. Yeah, some people get it pretty quickly, but it's a journey.
Yeah.
But I know that it's so like idolized in the visuals, but it really is such a service add to a guest.
That's what I was going to ask you. Like, how important is latte art to you in a cafe experience?
To me personally,
sure. Or just like you're running a company.
Oh yeah.
How important is it to you in your coffee shop?
Sorry, I didn't mean to come off aggressive about that question.
No, that was rough.
I'm just wounded here. Dude, I personally, I guess honestly, I'm like, if the latte art's not very good, it's usually because the milk's not that good, and then I'm always like, yeah. And I'm like, I haven't been ordering milk drinks for a long time.
Sure.
So I need to do that more. And maybe that even speaks to, I just would rather get black coffee because I don't trust it yet.
You don't, when you go to a coffee shop, you don't trust that they're going to get the milk right. So you're like, I'll just get black coffee.
I also prefer black coffee.
Okay, sure.
So
but that's a factor.
If I ever go to your coffee shop and I get black coffee, it's not because I don't trust you.
Sure.
It's because I want the black coffee.
Well, you know what I do is I stand in line and I listen. No, I don't have to look. And my wife always calls me out on this, and we have a fun time with it. But like I was in, I'm not going to say where. It's a big enough thing to where it wouldn't even matter. But I'm not going to say it. So I was somewhere they had an espresso machine, and all I can hear is, in every coffee professional can relate to this, where like they're steaming milk and it's just like, and then you're like 30 seconds later, you're like, it's still going. Like, nope. Yep. Still happening. And then it gets really quiet at the end. And they're like, oh crap. Because they're burning themselves. And what's happening there is, one, they're steaming it for too long, but two, they're not adding the air in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really important thing that we teach, is that when you add air into the milk, it needs to happen while the milk is still below your body temperature. And the way you know it's below your body temperature is if it feels cold.
Mhm.
Because once it doesn't feel hot or cold, you know it's around your body temperature. So adding air at the very end gives you that really like stiff, you know, kind of like bubbly feel where you, even if you like tap it 1,000 times, that's the other thing I listen to. Okay, anyway, so I stand in line, and if I hear that that's the milk situation, then I'm like, all right, I'm not getting a milk drink.
Yeah.
Because they don't know how to steam milk.
Read the room.
Yeah.
But I think to finish your second question, it is such a level up to the guest to like bring over a really, really well steamed, well poured drink.
Yeah.
I feel like they even feel it in their bones. You know, it's a heart move. They're like, oh, look at this.
Well, you can tell somebody cared.
Look at that.
Like
Attention to detail.
when somebody pours a ripper,
they know.
What I feel is like somebody had fun making this. Like they crushed this and they enjoyed crushing it.
And they hand delivered it because they wanted to see the look on your face.
Yeah.
Like, I'm running this one.
Yeah.
Here you go. And then he's like, lock eyes. You're like, do you see this? Do you see what I just did?
Yeah. And then I just like,
can I take a picture with you?
Right. And then you just like delete that cappuccino even faster because it's.
Then you go order another one.
You get another one.
That's good. That's business smart.
Business smart.
How Latte Art is business smart.
Now, Ethan, I would love to talk on the remainder of this program about something that we've had to do several times in our business and with wholesale partners. We talk about it all the time with people. Menu.
Okay.
Menu in the coffee shop. You know, how your menu is laid out. What are the things on the menu? What syrups do you have? Is it one of those menus with like 50 different lattes?
Do you put descriptions on the menu? Just put the title? Do you put the amount?
Yeah. Pricing.
Everything's market.
It's just all market pricing. That's good.
We go off the diff, we get C market, diff,
yeah,
market,
blah, 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 boom, boom, boom. Yeah.
It's actually really complex.
But what do you want to hit first with this menu topic?
Dude, we can go a lot of places. I think maybe just we can hit on a little bit of our own journey. You know, at one point we had just like a little card on our cart that had some drinks on it.
Yep.
And we made those. And then when we opened the cafe, we made a bigger menu that was still like down.
Yeah. It was still like on the counter. It was still paper. Yep.
And then eventually we went overhead.
Mm-hmm.
We actually had foldable menus you could grab and then put back, but
no one ever grabbed them.
And people took them.
Because
they were so
expensive.
Cool. Yeah.
And they looked sick.
They were good. Thank you, Bridget Hall.
Colorful panda vibes.
Yes. Beautiful. And then we moved to like panels that we can reprint and put up, which is pretty good. But man, so you really have to choose what you're going to put on the menu because a coffee shop is similar, not the same, similar to a bar in that you can make a lot of things with the ingredients you have.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily have to put them on the menu.
Right.
So deciding what you're going to put on the menu is pretty important because that's what people see. That's like their contact. What's funny is when people go to a restaurant, they look at the menu, right? Like before they go even.
Sure.
Like, I want to see what they have. Do you think people do that at the coffee shop? Because like coffee shops, they make the same things.
I think older people do.
Dude, if you're an older person and you look at the menu, smash like, make sure to subscribe.
I think, they're like, can I get a picture of your menu? And my thought is like, sure, but it's kind of the same as
it's a coffee shop.
And that's the point is like a restaurant has different food than other restaurants, like sure, everybody has a burger or whatever, but it's stuff exclusive to that restaurant. And we do have exclusive stuff to our coffee shop, like our seasonal menu. And we'll get to that later.
We're going to get to that later.
But
like, is there a part of you deep down that's just like, scrap it all, scrap the menu?
Go verbal.
Just tell me what you like.
Attaboy style.
Attaboy. Because we literally do that at events.
Dude, have you been to Attaboy before?
I went with you.
Oh yeah, we had such a great time. Yeah. I do remember
Cut
that.
this out, Jim. This is too emotional for me.
No, yeah, but that it's one of our favorite bars in Nashville. And they have...
We'll say they have one in New York because that sounds cooler.
Yeah, the first one was in New York. And they moved to Nashville as well. If you've ever been to Attaboy, comment below because it's a great spot if you're ever in Nashville. They execute on excellence and hospitality really well because they have like every bottle you could imagine. And then their technique and like ice quality is wild. Like they have these massive cubes of ice and they're like hand forming them, like to order. So like excellence, but then they come to your table and it's always someone super awesome and engaging and sweet. And they're like, what do you feel like drinking today? Let's dream.
Give me a few words to describe what you're in the mood for.
Yeah. And some people could just be eye roll about that. And I'm sure they are. Maybe it's not the place for them. But I think they try to present it in a way that is very open-ended and like normal because it's already like an abnormal thing to do that. But anyways, you were talking about menu.
I hate to go a little further. I know it's tangential. Do they not do anything? Like, are they like if someone's like, can I just have an old fashioned? They're like, actually.
Oh, no. They'll make you the best old fashioned you've ever had.
I love that.
I don't think they have vodka.
Wow, that's pretty big.
Which is sort of, I feel like for a while in cocktail scene, it was like if it was a really, really good bar, they didn't have vodka.
But
because vodka doesn't taste like anything besides rubbing alcohol most times. And
smash like if you agree.
But now there's like people like St. George has a really cool vodka that's like infused with something. So like people are kind of craft.
They're making it taste like stuff now.
Yeah. But so they might have some vodka, but my point is like they have almost anything and the bartenders have to be at a really, really high level to just take that information and go off of it. Yeah. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I'm sure they have like variations too. If someone wanted a very simple drink, like a vodka cranberry, they probably have something like it.
Yeah, and the response, like if I was a bartender and you ordered a vodka cranberry, we didn't have vodka. Say it. I want. Good.
Are you gonna cut this? So you're gonna get me saying, "Hey, can I have a vodka cranberry?"
Just gonna gif that or gif it, either one.
Peanut butter.
Yeah, like I might say, you know what? We don't have vodka cranberry. But I could make you something that you are going to love. Something like that. That's like.
And they're like, well, I would love a vodka cranberry. So.
Well, you know what I would love is the word. Yeah.
The thing I ordered.
Yeah.
Anyway. So yeah, in a coffee shop, at least in our head, because it's our industry, it's like, I'm never going to look at someone's menu if I'm going to go to a coffee shop. It's like, I'm just going to go try their coffee.
You might look at what coffee they roast or serve. Because you're like,
true.
Oh, that could be an attractive point.
That's true.
But like, as far as like
I'm more concerned about like their equipment,
Yeah. And how many cacti they have in their space. But
cacti count.
You're not going to look at the menu and be like, okay, yes, they do have a cappuccino on their menu. Yeah, I'm going to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, on the flip side though, if you see their menu and it says cappuccino 12, 16, 20,
24,
you're like
32,
whoa.
64.
And so let's go there. Cause I mean, there's literally, you could go to a coffee shop and we have cappuccino on our menu and you could go to the coffee shop down the street. They could have cappuccino on their menu.
Yeah.
If you order that, you could get 2 different products.
Let's call it like it is. Starbucks.
Charbucks. Yeah. $5.
Yeah, more like $5.
It's so darn expensive.
Except our drinks are $5 or more.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Anyways.
Yeah, you're right. Like you would order a cappuccino at Starbucks or you could order a cappuccino at our place and you get 2 different things. So what would you get? What do you think you would get at Starbucks if you ordered a cappuccino?
Dude, I don't.
You honestly don't know.
Do they have cappuccinos on their menu?
Well, we need to film ourselves going to the local Starbucks and saying 1 cappuccino, please.
And just see what happens.
Because I bet what they would say.
Do you think they'd see this? They'd see my teeny beanie and be like,
oh, he wants a traditional
one of those.
Yeah.
We've got one of those here.
That's funny.
And get the hose out.
I think they might say, okay, what size? And then you'd be like, yeah.
Cappuccino doesn't have a size.
Like you'd be like,
powered down.
Yeah.
Does not compute.
Because, I don't know if Starbucks was the culprit here, or the pioneer rather than culprit of the multi-size cappuccino. But I think the idea is just that it's a foamy latte, basically.
Right.
And I know that there's so many people listening to this that have worked at Starbucks before. So please let us know from your perspective as a former Starbucks or current Starbucks employee
or future,
what is the difference between a cappuccino and a latte? Because I'm pretty sure it's just like a 12-ounce latte versus a 12-ounce cappuccino. The 12-ounce cappuccino is just going to be more foamy, have more froth.
Sounds good to me. I was the guy that said you can't tip at Starbucks. So my history with being accurate is out the window.
We don't know the first thing about Starbucks. But a traditional cappuccino is 6 ounces.
Right.
A traditional / like third wave specialty coffee cappuccino, is 6 ounces. Your shot is going to be around 2 ounces. And then you're going to have like 4 ounces of steamed milk. And I like to make the milk a little bit more foamy.
You do?
Yeah. I mean, like not by a lot. Cause like, like the diagrams on the internet where it's like different, graphics of like what a cappuccino looks like. It's like 1 coffee, 1 milk, 1 froth. And you like spoon the froth on top. But
makes me sick to my stomach.
The injustice. But this is a cappuccino cup right here. It's around 6 ounces from ANCAP. Lovely, lovely cups.
Good cup.
By virtue of this being a smaller, more narrow cup, the milk, the froth, will stack up on itself because it's just a smaller cup. So even if you steam the milk the same way as you would a latte, you would still perceive it as foamier in a cappuccino because the milk just stacks up.
What?
That said, I still like to give it some air. Not to where I can't pour an absolute ripper of a Rosetta. But I like to give it a little more air.
2 questions. Is that how you differentiate your cappuccino to flat white?
Yes. I do think if somebody orders a flat white, first of all, I have to figure out what the heck they mean by that. Do they want the Starbucks flat white, which is usually in like a 12-ounce cup? Or do they want kind of an Australian specialty coffee flat white? In which case, I think they would expect like a 5-ounce drink, like 5 to 6 ounce drink. I've heard so many different opinions on this, but in my mind, it's like in ascending size, you've got espresso, which is just espresso. And then you've got a macchiato, which is espresso and like 1.5 ounces of milk, steamed milk. Mm-hmm. You've got a cortado, which is equal parts espresso and steamed milk, which, let's be real, it's never equal parts.
Dude, you're breaking hearts right now.
It's true. But I know that's the specialty coffee script, that cortado is equal parts espresso and steamed milk. And I think that's a digestible way to say it. And I get why people say that. But cortado cups are never 4 ounces. What are we talking about here?
Even if they are 4 ounces, an espresso's not. No one's pulling 60 grammars.
Okay, so you're saying a 2-ounce espresso is around 60 grams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's never the case unless you're getting lungos for the rest of your life. But I feel like we're doing some of the biggest shots in town with 45 grams, which is just 1.5 ounces.
Yeah.
And that's 1.5 ounces of weight, volume wise, it might even be smaller.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. And so then you got cortado, and then you have a flat white, which is right above cortado. For that milk, to answer your question, I'm steaming that a little bit of a tighter microfoam,
a little more wet.
And then, going really slow with the pour, since the thinner milk is less forgiving usually.
Lock that in your brain, latte artist. All right.
Yeah.
If you're new.
Yeah.
That's helpful.
It's true. 6 ounces cappuccino. We already talked about that. And then you've got latte, which is the Wild West of size. It could be anything.
But I guess like specialty original, was 8, but now it's 12. And some people do 10-ounce lattes.
8, 10, 12, 16, 20, 24.
But what about piccolo?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Gibraltar, Piccolo,
Other ones.
all these other things. What's a Piccolo? I come to you humbly.
Help us
and
out.
full of curiosity because I think a Piccolo is a cortado. Tear me up, please. Go there.
I think a Gibraltar's a cortado, right? Because this is a Gibraltar cup.
Dude, it's called a Gibraltar cup.
Dude,
I mean,
hey, back to flat white cappuccino. Would you, when you're training, go niche? So if someone's new to coffee, they're new to steaming milk, and you're like, hey, when you get a cappuccino, give it a little more air. And when you're doing a flat white, do a little less air. Or would you just be like, do microfoam and learn that first? Because you're not even going to be able to differentiate until later.
You know what? If they were having a hard time, I would just tell them do microfoam.
Just get good milk.
Yeah. And then if they were having a good time.
Okay, you're having a good time?
Like,
tell you something about
I'm going to navigate a little nuance.
Dude,
for you.
Nuance.
So, yeah, I mean, we always, for our menus, this is from the pop-up all the way till now. Usually on the far left, we've got that traditional espresso menu I just laid out.
Yep. Except macchiato.
We do not put macchiato. Yeah, we've punted on macchiato being on the menu just because not a lot of people order it. And it's kind of confusing for people, again, because Starbucks caramel macchiato
is a very popular drink.
Yeah.
80% of people that order macchiato at Valor typically want the caramel macchiato.
80%?
70%.
70%?
70%.
Yeah, no, I believe you.
And then 30% no. And then you're just like, hey, just make sure you want the little one. And then they're either like, yes, or they're like, yes. And I'm like, okay, well,
yeah, sorry.
I was just asking.
Sorry, I asked.
And I'm like, people, oh my gosh.
Yeah, somebody ordered a caramel macchiato at the catering event yesterday. And I was like,
you really want?
No, just kidding. I was like, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I made them a caramel latte.
Yeah, well, that was a little background I wanted to get into just process. I feel like this is a safe space. No one's really listening. It's just you and me.
Yeah.
It's just so interesting that we always say traditional, but I'm like, I don't know what they were doing in Italy.
Sure.
When they were making drinks.
I think they were making a macchiato, like a 3 ounce.
Well, yeah, that one means marked. That kind of makes sense. I mean less that, but like, I feel like you have Italian
sure
espresso drinks. You have Starbucks Americanized Italian espresso drinks where typically everything's just bigger.
Yep.
Multiple sizes, typically always sweetened, more or less.
For sure.
And then specialty coffee kind of like put it together.
Sure.
And then like tried to like make it more nuanced, I guess. I don't know.
A good illustration of that is the macchiato, because if we're going to talk about a traditional macchiato, like if you go to Italy and get a macchiato, they're going to pull, first of all, a really dark coffee, probably 1 to 1.5 brew ratio, the brew ratio could be either way, because I feel like I've seen really big shots of really dark coffee and I've seen really small shots. But they're going to do that, and then they're going to like torch the milk, like lots of foam, lots of stiff froth. They're going to spoon that out of the milk pitcher and dollop it into your demi with espresso in it, and that will be your macchiato. And that's not the specialty macchiato.
You're just doing latte art, same thing, just in a demi. You're filling up a smaller cup.
Exactly.
Yeah. Dude, and you've been to Italy, so.
I was 4 or 5.
I'm sure you had plenty of macchiatos.
Oh, we were down in those things. We just stand at the espresso bar, just knock them back all day.
So that's usually the realm of a lot of like conversation and like figuring out. I always say our concierge, like our register position, their job is one part translator, because people come in with a lot of different backgrounds in ordering coffee of what they like, and not in a super educational way, but we just have to figure out what they want and how we can translate it to what our menu offers and then give it to them. Right. So that's where it's like, hey, I'll get a cappuccino. And then I like might hold up a cup and be like, do you want this amount of cappuccino? And then they're like, no. And I'm like, I'll make you a bigger thing.
Yeah.
Then we don't have to get into it now, but then it's like, do you tell them that you're ringing up a latte?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you just be like, wink, wink.
Yeah.
I'm going to get you a cappuccino, wink.
Yeah.
And then you're like, latte.
Right.
And then they hand it off. And they're like, I got a latte for John. He's like, I ordered a cappuccino.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, whatever.
And you're like, we're closing. We're done.
Shut it down. Pocket that. It'll just put that away for a little bit. So then we have like something that I feel like we haven't nailed just yet. We get closer every time, but we want to highlight different ways to have like the nerd experience of coffee, right? So we want to have like a seasonal espresso option. We want to have the 1-in-1. We want to have our coffee shots, like the no Meccano thing. We want to have our special brew method called the middle child. And we put it all on the menu, but literally like what? 3 to 5% of people are actually interested in that. And so it's like, how do you say, you might not want this. You probably don't want this, but we need to put it here.
Sure. For the people that do.
But then a lot of people are like, what's the coffee nerd section? And then we're like, it's just all the different ways we can brew up all the different coffees we roast. And people are like, not interested. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yeah. Well, what have been the different iterations of that for us over the years?
Well, we called it eighth wave because we were trying to be funny.
Yeah.
That flopped.
Oops. So why did it flop?
I guess no one got it. And then we would explain like, well, you know, people say we're in the third wave of coffee. This is like all of the like more, you know, coffee forward drinks. So we just call it eighth wave. And then the guest is like, okay,
give me my latte, please. Yeah. You know that it flops whenever like our team also doesn't understand it. Like that was just sort of like an art move on our behalf.
Like, it's funny. No, it's funny.
No, people think this is funny, man.
Laugh. We're paying you to laugh. Laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eighth wave. Yeah. That was just total flop. And so then in Dunwoody, we're like, okay, let's think of a better name for these sort of drinks. And we said coffee nerd drinks, right?
Yeah.
Was that it?
That's it. That's it in both places now.
Currently still is coffee nerd. And people are still like, what are coffee nerd drinks?
What's a middle child?
Yeah.
And that's fair. I wouldn't know what a middle child was if I walked into Valor and hadn't been before. So it's like worth asking.
Of course.
And then people are like, either get it because it's a 6-ounce cup of coffee and they're like, really? Or they're like, can I add some stuff to this to make it bigger? And you're like, well, this is for someone who like wants to like sip on something and really taste the coffee. It's kind of like an experimental brew method. And they're like,
and by that time, they're just like, oh, I hate this. God. And then they're like, lavender vanilla latte, please.
And that's when I'm like, just scrap it all. Let's just go verbal. Be like, what do you like to drink? And how can we get it?
Dude, I get it, man.
But sometimes people want to try something different. That's
yeah.
fine.
Yeah. People, I feel like specifically the middle child, people that don't typically get drinks, experimental coffee drinks or drink black coffee, I think they get the middle child if they get anything on the coffee nerd menu. Yeah. I don't know if you would agree with that. Because the way that I would pitch it, and the way I've heard a lot of pit crew pitch it, is like it's in between an espresso and a drip coffee in terms of strength. Yeah. So it's like a 1-to-9 brew ratio. So if you think espresso is too strong, but sometimes you want it to pack a little bit more punch than a cup of coffee, middle child's your drink. And then I think that's pretty accessible and tempting for a lot of people.
Yeah. So we just have it on there. We got 1-in-1 on there. And I guess that's just what you got to do right now. And that's cool. It's not like we want to hide that information from anyone. I think I'm just trying to think, how can we make it easy for people to find what they want?
And let's be clear, like we are more than happy to explain anything to a guest. We want them to feel, we never want them to feel like they're out of place for asking something. It's like the opposite of what we want to do. But what we're talking about right now is like, how can you structure your menu in a way where you're not confusing people, unnecessarily confusing people?
Yeah, it's almost like them asking a question is showing you aren't making this clear enough.
Yeah.
So the question, when someone asks a question, I'm like, ooh, I didn't make this clear enough.
Okay. Well, so that segues nicely into another really important topic when it comes to menu. which is you don't want to have too many things on the menu and specifically too many words and descriptions on the menu.
Yeah.
So like, let's take that coffee nerd drink section of the menu as a case study. We could put in smaller letters the description of each of these things under the title of the drink. But first of all, people will just look up there and be like, ugh, words, ugh, too many words. And they're like standing in line, and like we need them to like kind of go quickly and be able to reach their decision of what they want as quickly as possible, but as informed as possible. And so if there's a ton of words, then it just gets too jumbled. So you kind of have to strike that balance of people understanding what each of the menu items are, especially one that's new, intuitively, but also having enough words on there to where they do understand it. So,
and Riley did a really nice thing. The descriptions for the drinks are not typically on our overhead menu because of being able to read it, but on the like web one, there are descriptions. You have time to read it.
That's nice.
You're just looking at your phone. Good job, Riley.
People love looking at their phones.
People are like, wow, more time I get to spend on my phone.
Another reason to pick up my phone.
Win. Hashtag winning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dude, syrups.
Yeah.
Lavender, vanilla. We don't have vanilla. What?
Jeez.
Yeah.
Guys, let me just say this. If you're running a specialty coffee company and you're not making your own syrups,
wake up.
You really could. If you have a really good reason for not doing that, besides that it's hard, then I think that reason's not that good because it's easy. Making syrups is easy. In fact, can we just disclose for anyone out there that thinks that making their own house-made syrups is difficult, how easy it is to make our lavender vanilla syrup?
Caramel is the only hard one.
Sure.
Whether you're doing like a butter caramel or just a caramelized sugar syrup situation, all you do is make simple syrup, which is a 1-to-1 sugar water.
In weight. Or volume, actually, right?
I think weight.
Just keep it weight. Okay.
Keep weight. Because you need to scale. I feel like, I'd be interested to see the volume thing. Then you get it hot. All right.
Dissolve the sugar.
While it's hot, you put in things to extract flavor, like flowers.
Or infuse.
Like vanilla extract or vanilla beans or vanilla powder. We've done it all. And then you stir it up and you let it cook for like 10, 15. I'm gonna work on a little pistachio syrup. See how that works out.
Sweet. What are you using for pistachio?
Pistachio.
Just like
chop it up.
Okay.
Throw it in there.
And then the whole idea is like you just cook it and that extracts flavor.
Yeah.
And then you strain it.
Yeah.
And then you chill it.
Yeah.
Done.
And
it like keeps in the fridge for, the more ingredients, I would say like the less it keeps.
Yeah. Or if you're like using like fruit or something, which we do all the time. Remember when we did the watermelon, bro? Didn't have a long lifespan.
Yeah. But
something like peppermint. Woo.
Oh yeah. You're good.
See you next 10 years. Peppermint.
Yeah.
I think it's hearty. It's really easy.
It's such a huge ad for a guest to walk up and see that you have house-made syrups.
Because you get to have a little fun with it.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. And I also don't want to have a bias because, we have this nice warehouse here where we have a whole station over there dedicated to making kegs and syrups. So would you say that making house-made syrups is feasible even for a small cafe that doesn't have a production area to accommodate such gear?
We did it for years in the cafe. So yes. And we have a small cafe.
How did you do it?
Just got a burner, a little electric eye, is what we call it, and a pot and a whisk.
And then you just take
sugar and water.
Yeah. And like maybe 30 minutes.
Yeah. However big your pot is, you make more syrup.
Hey, and you can make a good margin on syrup, especially house made. Charge 75 cents, $1 for syrup.
$4 or $5 for syrup.
That's a good add-on, and it's a great margin. even if you're using really good sugar and really good stuff,
which we do. Organica, baby. That's a good plug, man, for the syrups. Good corner, wholesale Ross. Dude, one thing that's a little new is seasonal menus.
Yeah.
Values kind of up, right? Because as we were talking about, and now what we are talking about, people like us, like-minded individuals, can think of coffee shops as a dime a dozen, same menu items, same thing. What's something that could differentiate as far as a product? A seasonal menu.
Yep.
Something sets you apart. Sure, it might match other seasonal menus in some ways, but that's where the kind of the creative stakes can go up. Like, how are we going to not just do a peppermint mocha for winter?
Sure.
How are we going to do something freaking crazy?
So what's your approach to crafting a seasonal menu?
Well, thank you. A nice guy named Yoda that comes into Dunwoody was asking me to talk about how we make seasonal drinks.
There you go.
So this is that plug moment. What was your question? What's our approach?
What's your approach to making seasonal drinks in our cafe?
Well, Ross, it's all me. I'm kidding. That's the great thing about having teams is that you hire such creative people, and you have great partners. So there's like this, a lot of ideas can come in. And let me back up to say the bare bones would be like making a seasonal syrup.
Sure.
And then you just use it in stuff.
Yeah.
Probably you would just use it in a latte.
That's what we did for a while. We have lavender, vanilla, caramel, cardamom, mocha. Those stay. And then we have seasonal.
Right.
That rotates.
And if that's what you got to start with, do it. It's not that hard. That's what we did. I think what we're getting into now is creating kind of like models for seasonal drinks and plugging in different acids and spices and sweets to create something. And I really do run off that kind of model of like, and you help me out with this a lot with like building a cocktail. It's like you need to have your base, your acid, your sugar, and your like garnish, flair, spice, bitter thing. And so kind of just running through that. And what's fun now that we have been doing our own cold brew, is a plug if you work in coffee, making drinks with cold brew concentrate is 1,000 times better than making it with espresso. I'm sure there are some drinks that are awesome with an espresso to add.
Why is that?
Why is it better? Well, help me out. But I mean, it just is really consistent and like chocolatey. It like adds the same thing every time. I feel like, and maybe it's because we use free throw, which has a little bit more like pop to it. You're adding like a bitter and an acid.
Yeah.
And then you're adding an acid again. And then it's like volatile, you know? But cold brew concentrate is just like steady chocolate, sweet coffee flavor. Yeah. It really is like concentrated coffee flavor at that point when you're adding it into stuff, and it just blends a lot better. You want to add anything to that?
Well, I think when you're building and balancing a cocktail, you don't want each ingredient to have too much complexity and volatility. You know, like if I was to take a cup of lime juice and slurp it cupping style, I'm not getting a lot of notes there. It's just lime. But whenever you're balancing that with a sugar, you're balancing that with, in our case, coffee, or in a cocktail's case, gin or something. You know, like that's what makes the cocktail go round, as it were, is that these sort of unidimensional ingredients are balancing together. And sure, you might have a drink where we take this Kenya and we pull it on espresso, really high acidity, really high complexity, and we sort of play off of that. But the ingredients that you add to that, in that case, would need to be extra simple because we're trying to amplify what's happening in this coffee. However, with cold brew concentrate, it's simple by design. It's basic by design. It's not supposed to have high degrees of acidity or complexity. And so it's sort of just playing the like grunt role in the drink, where it's like that tastes bitter and sweet and it tastes like coffee. And that's exactly what we need it to be. And then we sort of can add maybe a syrup that has a little bit more complexity, or yuzu.
Hey.
or whatever it is, but sort of operating off of that framework of like, these are the sort of archetypes of drinks on our seasonal menu. What's been one of your favorite archetypes you've come back to on one of our seasonal menus?
Well, the most steady is kind of a specialty cortado, which is funny because it kind of started as a joke.
Mm-hmm.
We had a drink called the Tokyo Drift, which is kind of a joke name, like Fast and Furious reference. And it just really took off. We used like a little bit of syrup through smoked glass, orange blossom syrup, grated nutmeg, expressed orange peel. Just came together really well. And then I think we realized, with our seasonal syrups and throwing in a couple different spices, like a cortado is just a really fun way to show off different flavors because it's a little more concentrated.
And it's usually in a nice glass.
And it's in a nice glass, so it looks good. You feel good. It's awesome. So like a little specialty garnished cortado has been one. I think we've consistently, now that we can make our own sparkling water, have been doing like a sparkly either coffee or matcha drink that's got like a sugar, sparkling water, and acid, matcha, cold brew concentrate, and then some sort of garnish as well. That's been really fun.
Sprojito. Is that in that category?
That is definitely in that category. Sprojito number 2. Cherry Seinfeld.
That's kind of like a soda.
A soda
pop.
A holiday hoopy, like highball kind of thing. And then now that we have cold brew concentrate, which we've had, I just kind of stepping into it more, is making like a coffee cocktail model, like a flip, if you will, like a shaken creamy thing. So we did that with the Valor House Flip in the winter. And then on our Valentine's Day special, we have the DTR half and half syrup, cold brew concentrate, shake, strain, black pepper, cocoa powder. It's just really
black pepper.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. A little spice on the nose, bring it out.
Yeah.
And I realized, like, especially with the seasonal syrup, if you're really proud of it, it's really fun to show it off in smaller drinks because we're using like typically all organic, definitely always all natural ingredients. And like, it's hard to just make that always pop through, like punch through a latte,
Sure.
You're just usually tasting milk at that point, like sweet milk. And it is showing up, but like making that blackberry white chocolate syrup and throwing in that DTR, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I can really get it all here. I can pick it up. So that like coffee flip model has been really fun as well.
Sort of like an espresso martini would be the analog to that. And I think something that really helped me in making drinks, cocktails, and coffee stuff too, is a book from Death & Co. Called Cocktail Codex. And it was one of the more revelatory books in the culinary world. I've read so many culinary books. Wow.
Oh,
just kidding. Because it basically starts with the assumption or claim that every cocktail that's ever been made comes from 6 different roots, like 6 different families of cocktails. And it sort of explores each root. So like one of the roots is an old fashioned. And really what we're dealing with there is a spirit. So, bourbon, like in an old fashioned, a bitter, which would be like the aromatic bitters, a sweet, which would be like simple syrup. And that's the archetype. And so you're like, okay, so I'll take that and then I can make something off of that. So like if you've ever sat in a cocktail bar or if you've ever sat in a coffee shop and you look at all these bottles on the wall, they're like, man, how do they know how much to add of how much and why? Like, I think it really comes from that understanding that there are maybe 6 or 7 or 5 families of cocktails, archetypes that you can play off of and riff off of. Like the cortado, the Tokyo Drift. That's just like a shorter latte. It's a shorter flavored latte with a garnish. And then whenever you put it that way, it kind of devalues it a little bit. But like, so what? Like it helps you understand it and it helps you be able to make your own drinks.
Helps you riff easier because you're like, okay, that's how it is. What's the garnish?
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to do something to the glass? Let's smoke the glass.
Yeah.
What do you want to put on top? Do we want to express something?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what do we want to sweeten it with?
Yeah. It's almost like you need to understand the different flavors at hand here. So like just to name them, you got like coffee. That's kind of a flavor, especially when you're making a coffee signature drink menu. Coffee, bitter. That's sort of in coffee, but you could sort of play off that in another way, like quinine.
Quinine.
Sweet. So simple syrup or a seasonal syrup that you're doing. Acidity, which would be like a fruit of some kind, or another type of acidity. Another one would be smoke, like smoking the glass, like you said. And then spice, you know, like a nutmeg garnish or cinnamon or
cardamom,
something like that to like add. We've even done stuff with cayenne spice. And there's probably other ones too. But the point I'm trying to make is like, you've got all these different things, all these different themes you can play with. And the right combination of the right ones is how you start to be able to make your own drinks.
Mm-hmm. It's a good word, bro.
So just to put a bow on that, how much of signature drinks do you think we're selling?
Good bit. Probably like 20% of drinks are typically running seasonal menu.
Mm-hmm.
People are interested. I think that's why we've kept doing it amidst that heightened responsibility. You know, it's like, well, people really love this. This is like something special to the guest experience as well as working at Valor. You know, like all of those drinks that we mentioned were not just like a sole, this was my idea. Or this was this person's idea. But it's like Mikey has an awesome idea. Joey has an awesome idea. Lil B has an awesome idea. And then it gets refined and then it gets made, you know? So it's just like a fun aspect of working at Valor. It's like, oh, maybe I can come up with something that will be a seasonal drink, you know? And I understand, I was talking to somebody recently, like, I understand why maybe some coffee shops would be like, let's just do the classics. We're just going to do a traditional menu and we're not going to worry about it. It does take a lot of my time. It takes a lot of time, resource, money to like source ingredients constantly, try new things. But it's like, what do you want to be? And if that's part of what you want to be, that's the cost and it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's worth it for us.
Yeah. Well, this has been an awesome time today. And we have one more thing.
Yeah, a lot of people said we wouldn't have fun, but I had fun.
I had fun too. We need to review this coffee from Bellwood.
Kenya Kamwangi. Well, you already talked about how you're going to quit Valor and go work at Bellwood because you loved it so much.
Yeah, I just love their coffee.
Joel, Charles, you're getting a good one in Ross. So,
thank you.
Have fun.
Start with the packaging.
So, custom bag, single use label slapped on there, 12 ounces of coffee, little floral pattern on the side. Matte, they got great simple colors with the green and the white. Respect it. I think they've had the same logo since the get.
Since the get-go?
Sorry if I'm wrong, but
no, I think so.
That is what I'm looking at here. Kamwangi. Okay. They kind of have a similar model to us where it's just like maybe they don't have like a description about the coffee on here, but they have like their classic company bio jargon on the back, which is awesome. A little website. No QR code, Riley. Sorry.
He's asleep.
And yeah, I mean, they go for, I think they've had the same colors, kind of a consistent brand identity since the get.
Bravo. That. That's always preferable.
Okay.
Content out of 10.
Shout out Tommy for making the brand. Content out of 10.
1, 2, 3, 7. Oh, aligned.
Classic.
What about aesthetic? Out of 10?
Sure.
1, 2, 3, 7. UX. I didn't open it, but I mean.
Oh, we know this bag.
Seems like a 5 to me. I mean, I guess. I
think we usually give a 3 or a 4 for like a classic experience.
Sure.
I think 5 is reserved for an elevated,
like super exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not necessarily an exciting UX.
Which is hard because typically when people go for an elevated experience, it's usually a miss as far as UX. Like
That's true.
I feel like we downgraded Big Face because it was like hard to get to it.
Yeah.
You know, but they made extra steps. Which
not that you would know about this, but opening an iPhone, that's an elevated experience and it's easy. You know, like they really nailed that. Great job, Apple. Shout out to you. I know you're listening. Let's crunch this coffee.
Well, you want to start with the crunch?
I guess we don't have to. I mean, what did you think about the flavor? I kind of already talked about it, but I mean, this was one of my favorite coffees we've had in recent memory, like I said, and they also did an awesome job with it.
Cappuccino was amazing. Espresso was great.
Jeez. Yeah. Okay. Flavor out of 10. 1, 2, 3, 8. Dang.
Dial.
Are we brothers, actually? People always say that we're brothers.
We are brothers in the Lord.
Yeah. Does that translate to like flavor?
Calibration?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
Actually.
Enjoyability out of 10. 1, 2, 3,
9.
8. Okay.
Dude, what's going on?
I'm just mad that it was better than ours.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Let's crunch. The crunch test.
This is big. This is what's going to set them apart.
This makes or breaks people.
Everything. That's good.
Comment below if you've started crunching coffee more since watching the program and breaking your teeth.
I know someone here has.
Crunch out of 5. 1, 2, 3,
4.
3.5.
All right, dude.
Time for some basic addition here.
You got this, man.
Thank you.
While you're doing the addition, I would just like to say thank you for listening to this program. Ross, I had an awesome time. I'm excited to do it again next week. I don't know what we're going to talk about next week. Maybe how much coffee shop owners make, because that's what we were going to talk about this week. But I think we just needed Riley here.
Yeah, I meant to say that at the beginning. But yeah, last program we talked about disclosing our salaries. And that's just kind of a funny thing to do. And we're just fine with doing it. But even more importantly, to talk about like what a business model in a coffee shop really looks like. And if you want to start a coffee shop one day, how much you could make earning a living running a coffee shop. The grand total is 37.
How much did free throw get?
I think it was 42.
This coffee scored pretty high.
That's pretty good.
It's an awesome coffee.
They didn't even know that we were reviewing it.
I know.
Luke just went and bought it.
Yoinked it. Dude, you're awesome.
You're awesome, man. Hey, let's have a great work day. Let's dream about what could and
You're
should
going to keep working after this?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Even though it's Valentine's Day, it's national holiday, I'm not taking Valentine's Day off.
Dude, grind life, hustle life.
Hustle.
Never stop.
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys have a great rest of your day or night, and thank you for tuning in.
Peace.